Hi, in this video I'm going to be doing a assembly basically of this computer. As you see on the desk here, I already showed you all the components that you can see in the previous video, so have a look at that if you want to. If not, I'm going to mention pretty much everything that I'm going to be working with. So this video is going to be part of the 3-video series, and the reason for that is because I'm missing 1 or 2 components. The first component is the GPU. I don't have it yet because GTX 1070 is, even though it's released, it's not really available to purchase and not in the models anyway that I want to. So I'm going to be holding on for that. So that's going to be in part 3. But the PC is going to be working as it is because I'm going to be using onboard GPU for now. So this is just going to be assembly of everything but the GPU. And obviously I'm missing the second component as well, as I mentioned, which is the monitor. I'm still waiting for one, but about that a little bit later. So in this part of the 3, I'm going to be assembling this PC. So I'm going to assembling everything on the motherboard, putting it into the case, testing, making sure everything works. In the second of the 3 parts, I'm going to be getting the GPU, but not the one that I wanted still. I'm getting a GTX 980 Ti from ASUS, and I'll be able to use that temporarily and do some benchmarking. So that's going to be great because eventually in the part 3, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting a GTX 1070, which is exactly what I want in this build, and then doing benchmarks again, and I'll be able to compare between GTX 980 Ti and GTX 1070. So that's that. Now that that's out of the way, I just want to mention that in this video there'll be 6 parts. It's basically going to be made of 6 parts, and these parts are as follows. So in the first part, I'm going to be doing a component overview. So I'm going to talk a little bit what's on the desk and what I'm going to do next. Second part is going to be basic assembly. So I'm going to just assemble the very basic components onto the motherboard without putting it into the case and just doing a power on test. And by checking the manual and by checking the postcode on the motherboard, we'd be able to see if it's running okay or not. If everything's fine, I'm going to be preparing a CPU cooler for mounting. So basically I'm going to be mounting brackets on both sides as per instructions, ready to mount that. It's just a bit easier because the case is quite heavy, so I thought might as well do that separately while the motherboard is out. And followed by motherboard installation into the case, connecting the I/O pins, connecting the fans, the LEDs, everything. So making sure that everything is connected and ready to rock. And obviously the last thing is going to be the CPU cooler installation itself, because it's quite a sizable hardware to be installed in the case. I'm kind of leaving it for last because especially it's going to be blanking out some fans that I will need to connect, and it's just going to be messy to work in the case if I install it first. So that's why I'm leaving it for last. And obviously the last part, so the part 6, is going to be aesthetics. I'm going to be doing some cable management. I'm going to do a power on with the monitor, make sure everything works, make sure I can go into BIOS, and that would conclude this video pretty much. Because as I mentioned, I don't have a GPU, dedicated GPU just yet, but it's coming in a few days' time. I'm going to be doing a video of unboxing of that GPU. I'm going to be doing a video of the installation of that GPU and testing. And somewhere in between, I will be getting a Philips BDM3270QP 32-inch 1440p resolution monitor, which is going to be great for testing and for everything. And I really want to see how that looks like on my desk. And obviously eventually I'm going to get GTX 1070. We're going to do some testing and see how they compare. So let's get started. First, component overview. All the components on my desk is pretty much everything that I'm going to be using for the moment and everything that I'm going to need. So first things first, there's the motherboard. So that's MAXIMUS 8 Hero Alpha from ASUS. Great motherboard, great overclocking capability, great expansion, nice looking board, some RGB LEDs and things like that, and also RGB extension here. So basically I can connect external strips and put them in my case, which is what I'm going to be doing. There's some strips there, so I'm going to try them later as well. So that's the motherboard. I have the Kingston HyperX DDR4 Fury RAM. Nothing amazing here. 4 sticks of 8 GB each, and the speed is at 2400 megahertz, so not too high, not too low. Next is the CPU, which is Intel i7-6700K. So that's the i7 CPU that can be overclocked. So it's unlocked CPU. In terms of the power supply, I'm going to be using the Seasonic SS-660XP2. So that's a fully modular 660 watt platinum power supply. And because it's fully modular and because of the components I'm using, it's going to be really nice and neat in the case. It's going to look really nearly empty in the case with all the lack of extra cabling for the SATA and whatnot. So that's going to be great for airflow. And one of the very nice components that I can't wait to try out will be the Samsung 950 Pro SSD. You can see it there. There you go. So that's going to be M.2 SSD, which I'm going to try, and that's 256 gigabytes. So yeah, that's that. What else do we have? We have Noctua CPU cooler, which I used before and I really love it. It's NHU14S. It's a single tower CPU cooler with single fan, and you'd be surprised how close it gets in terms of cooling performance to its massive brother of the 2 tower and double fans. And obviously it's a bit lighter, a bit smaller, but with the same performance and slightly lesser price tag. It's actually a great item to have, and I think that's perfect what I need for this system. And that's pretty much it, guys. As I said before, there's not a dedicated GPU in the system yet. That's what's going to be part 2 of the 3 video series. Obviously, in the background, you probably see the Logitech G810 ORION Spectrum keyboard and G502 PROTEUS Spectrum mouse and keyboard. These are RGB. Great keyboard and mouse, nothing unusual, nothing special. I got them on the deal, so why not? And obviously, one of the biggest stars of the show is the Phanteks Enthoo EVOLV ATX case, Anthracite Gray. Really nice addition. I really love this case, so I can't wait to start building this. Right, so that's overview is out of the way. We can start finally doing something in terms of testing if it works and starting the whole assembly process. So let's get started. Right, so first things first, I'm going to just put the RAM in. Now this is a HyperX Fury DDR4 RAM. RAM is pretty easy to install. Just make sure you align the notch. In some cases, like for instance here, there are some pins just to push away on the motherboard, and on the other side, in this particular case, these are solid, and I'll be installing them now. So I'm just going to zoom in my camera so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so as mentioned, make sure you align the notch. Every release of the RAM, whether it's DDR3, DDR4, or DDR2 or whatever, is slightly different, so make sure that you're not mixing wrong RAM. And that's as simple as that. You don't need too much force, it just needs to click in. So in this case, because these are solid, simply landing in like so. And then pushing on the other side, and that clicks in. So that's the RAM installation. I'm just going to continue with every module like so. Next, we're going to install the CPU. Now this is somewhat funny CPU installation because I have some sort of a manual here from ASUS. I don't really like things like that, but if that's supposed to make life easy, why not? So first things first, I'm going to just remove this holder, literally like so. This is just to protect the socket itself. I'm going to put it away. Just going to have a quick look what it says here. So it's saying locate the triangle mark. So you're taking the top of the CPU tool, which is like this. You locate the triangle mark, which is here. You locate the same triangle on the CPU itself. Turn it around and make sure you align the triangles in. That's pretty much it. And then you push in the CPU. The strangest thing is that this thing has to be installed like that. So anyway, Let's have a look what else they want us to do. It says install it until it clicks in. Then I have to open up the socket, which is pretty straightforward. You push it down, pull it out of the way, and then you're ready to open it. Now, the tool like that is supposedly here to make your life easier. I'm not really sure how it's going to make my life easier, but if it prevents from making mistakes, why not? So then to install this, your CPU is holding like so. So remember the corner here, two triangle pins that are aligned, and you have triangle here on the motherboard, and that's how you would normally install it. So to install that, as per manual, it says firmly hold both sides of the CPU installation tool and install it into CPU socket. That's it. You just drop it in. Nothing to it. So it won't move around or anything like that. It's already installed, which is really neat actually. It's quite safe, quite secure, and especially if that's the first time you're installing CPU, it's going to make your life much easier. And then what it says to you, secure the CPU installation tool with the CPU into CPU socket. So you're not removing the CPU tool, you're leaving it as it is. So you lower the big bracket first, then you lower this thing, and then you simply push it on and make sure that the hand here goes under the bracket. And that's our CPU installed, as simple as that. So we have CPU, we have RAM installed. Next, what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna install the SSD, and to do that, I have to put the SSD in like so at an angle. And next I would have to lower it down and secure it. However, there's two things missing. First, is this little razor, which is included with the SSD. So I'm going to take out SSD, put it away. I know now which pin it's supposed to secure on. Secure the razor. You don't need too much power or anything like that, because all it's going to do is just hold the SSD, which is really feather light. Put in the SSD, touch down, make sure that we have it on the right slot, because you see on this particular motherboard I have 4 options. And then finally secure it. I'm just going to move away in a second. Secure it with a screw provided. So that's how the SSD installed. Very simple. It's actually easier than installing RAM nearly. You don't need any force at all. You just put it in, lower it, secure it, make sure that you have the razor. And the way to know it if you need the razor or not, just simply look from here, from this direction, and you'll see if one end is lower, means, well, you need a razor. So that's that. We're going to move some things out of the way. I'm going to zoom out to big picture, and we're going to do some testing. So testing is going to be pretty straightforward. Before I do testing, I like just to remove some plastics or anything like that. So for instance, there's a protective plastic on this thing here, and that's just to prevent it from being scratched during installation or during shipping or whatnot. But if you forget it, this part actually gets quite hot, and that plastic can just be, well, glued up forever, and it's not going to look pretty. So before I do anything, I'm just going to remove it. So before installing motherboard into PC case, ideally you should connect the monitor, connect the power, and just test it. I wouldn't be able just to connect the monitor because my table is just too overcrowded, but I'll be able, because of this LED dial here, I'd be able to tell if there is an issue with it or not, because it would be displaying error code if there is one. So what I'm going to do is, I have already cables prepared, so there's going to be 4 cables that I will need. I don't need any SATA cables or anything like that, so I need to connect this, which is going to be the power here on the top of the motherboard. I need to connect that, which is the main power here. And I'm going to need 2 cables, which is going to be PCI Express cables for the graphics card that's to come, because I'm not sure if it's going to be 1 or 2, so just in case I'm going to connect 2. So first things first, I suppose I can connect the CPU cable here. So it's usually 8 pins like so, very easy to connect. The connection is on the top of the motherboard. I'm just going to rotate it a bit so you can see it better. So it's over here. Now the way most connectors are made these days are to prevent you from shorting anything out or connecting the wrong cables. So if the cable doesn't connect, chances are you're connecting the wrong cable, as simple as that. Next, motherboard, main power, which is here on this side. And all I need now is to connect it to the power supply. Because it's fully modular, I have markings as well. So for instance, in my case, I'm going to be connecting motherboard, main power on top here like so, and on the bottom as well. And it's marked as M/B, so motherboard. And the CPU connects simply here because it says CPU/PCI Express. I'm just going to connect it right beside it. And that's ready. Now, one thing you guys probably noticed is that there isn't any CPU cooler. And that's fine because all I'm going to be doing is powering it on for just a couple of seconds until these codes just basically settle down on 1, and that's it. So we're going to be powering it on for maybe 10 seconds and straight away off. So that's the live power cable that I have ready here. I'm going to connect it up and then give it some power. And straight away I can see that LEDs here light up. So I know that I have power connected, and because of the type of this motherboard, it's gaming motherboard, it's basically made to be able to work on with the button here, so I can work outside of the case. However, if you don't have something like that, I'll show you what you can also do. We also have pins here. Now, if you have a look at your manual, if you want, or something like a razor or anything like that, you see that some of the pins will be power pins, and in my case these are the 2 pins here. And if you to short them with a screwdriver or something like that, some metallic object, they're gonna basically make your PC run. And now I'm not gonna run PC for long. I have code 32, 35, 37, 39, and that's off. So that was some sort of a forced boot. I'm going to have a look what code do we have now. There's some sort of LED here, so I can look it up. So code 32, 35, okay, code 62. Right, so that's a little bit longer than I expected. So what I'm going to do next is, because CPU doesn't have any cooler, I'm going to just have a quick look on my motherboard book and we'll see what's that about. Okay, so according to the memory, code 32 to 36 is CPU post memory initialization, so that's fine. So it seems like everything is okay. It just was doing some post checking, and also the fact that I was able to do switch off with the start button shows me that motherboard is reacting. So CPU and RAM should be working just fine. So I'm happy the way it is. I don't see a monitor now because I don't have anything connected, so I'm going to just simply power it off, get the cooler, and start working on the bracket installation. Noctua provides very clear instructions. Make sure you follow them to the letter, especially if you're not sure. One thing to be aware of, even though you'll be taking these manuals and this bracket and everything, all the bits and pieces from the Intel box that's already clearly marked by Noctua. I'm actually going to show you that. So there you go, secure firm mounting system for Intel. You have 2 different mounting types. One is for 2011, one is for 11.5X. So anything starts with LGA 11.5, you're good to go. So just make sure you use the right manual. So to start off with, you need 4 screws, 4 razors, 2 brackets, and a backplate. Backplate is going to be installed on the back of the motherboard. Now in this particular case, I'm just going to do a simple and easy job. Make sure this points down towards your PCI Express slots. And the reason for that, note the way these 3 slots are arranged. And as you see, these are the 3 screws here. So that's on the back. Now this is a bit backwards mounting. Reason for that is so you can better see it on the camera. And because I already done that before, so I'm not too worried about it too much. Next, make sure you install these razors. So when that's done, you're gonna need to put these brackets in. Now, the way these brackets are for 11.5X slots, anything that starts with LGA 115, you're gonna be using the inner cutouts. There you go, like so. These bits pointing up. It's not that easy to make a mistake here because Noctua mounting system is one of the best in the world in terms of ease of use. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but just follow the manual. And once that's done, all we need to do is secure these screws. Now the whole this contraption is mounted like that simply to give you better support, for the reason that the CPU cooler, this aftermarket CPU cooler, is quite heavy unit, so you wouldn't want to break your motherboard or anything like that. Now one thing to note, I suppose I should have mentioned it to you before, Noctua also mentions in their manual, as you see, there is orientation that will matter to you, depends on how you want to mount the cooler. So if you, I'm just going to use that because it's much lighter. If you want to position your cooler like this, so that would be your radiator, fan will be here or here, pushing the air that direction or that direction, that's how you mount these brackets. If you want your cooler to be like this, so basically pushing the air down or pushing up ideally, you would be mounting these brackets differently. So as you have two options to mount them, and that will basically depend on which way you want to align the actual radiator. So that's that. Now when that is done, I'm just going to secure the screws, and that's pretty much it. Next we're going to be putting the motherboard into the case itself. And one nice thing actually just to mention about Noctua, they even include accessories, and if you look at the accessories box, you have a screwdriver, so if you want short, now you have it. You have these rubber mounts for their second fan if you want to get another fan from Noctua and mount it on this cooler. And you also have brackets. You have very nice metallic, actually I'm going to show it to you because it's probably one of the best case badges I've ever seen. So there you go, it's a nice metallic badge. No joke there, Noctua. If you want that on your case, as I said, brackets for additional fan. This is also included. This is in a low noise adapter, so basically that's like a capacitor, sorry, not a capacitor, that's like a resistor which will reduce the speed of your fan if you choose to do so. However, most motherboards allow you to control it anyway, so that should be okay. Additional things there, and most importantly, thermal paste. Now guys, for those of you who go crazy and want to buy some aftermarket thermal paste, even though that's one of them, just stick with Noctua. They're pretty good paste. You know, these guys are including this paste for a reason, because it performs well along with their coolers. They wouldn't include some third-party nonsense that would compromise the cooling of their solution, so just go with that. So I'm gonna just secure that next, and I'm gonna see you in the next part. Okay, just before I begin, I wanted to show you what I took out of the chassis, because I'm not gonna be using them and you might want to do the same. So first of all, this tray here that just slides on the top, and this is for the radiators, fans and things like that. I'm not gonna be using that. I just want to let more air to escape the case, so that's fine. I took them out. I also took out the cover here. That is also for mounting additional things, looks like so. I don't really need it, so I took it out. I took out things from underneath the cover, which are basically rails for a hard drive 3.5-inch caddies. Took them out as well. I also took out of the back of the case these 2.5-inch hard drive or SSD plates. And last but not least, I took all the cabling off the back for the PWM fan support, because I'm going to be using motherboard functions for that. So now that that's out of the way, let's get the motherboard in. Okay, and I'm ready. So next step is a bit unnecessary, but I had the tools already ready, I suppose, so might as well use it, which is these white gloves. The reason for that is I don't want to leave any fingerprints interior, because one, it looks awful, and two, it attracts dust and things like that. So it's just to keep everything from neat, nice and tidy, especially since all the interior is going to be black. Very easy to introduce fingerprints that's going to attract dust. So motherboard on the side for the moment. Next we need to install this IO shield. Very easy to install. You simply need to align and push it in. That's pretty much it. And when it clicks, you know you have just installed it. IO shield is not a big deal, but it just provides some aesthetics and some grounding that you just want to include in your build. So now, just before you install the motherboard, make sure you move all the cabling or anything like that away, because it's going to give you a major headache when you're going to try to align the motherboard. One important step before installing motherboards, now on ATX motherboards, just going to lower it a bit here, there are 3 holes at the top, 3 in the middle and 3 on the bottom, and they align to 3 standoffs on the bottom, 3 in the middle and 3 on the top. So make sure you already have that in your case, in case that's not included. In my particular case, that was already in, so that's great. Thanks for that, Phanteks. And that's it. So as you see, first align the IO shield, lower the motherboard. Next, I'm going to get 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Secure them here, and another 3 on the bottom. So sorry, 9 screws, I suppose. Usually I start from this side, go here, and finish with the closest to the IO shield. And when that's done, we're going to work on some cabling. Okay, so just before I forget, once these 9 screws are secured, I'm just going to put power supply in. Okay, so power supply is mounted now. I actually mounted it kind of upside down, so the exhaust intake, whatever that is pointing up. There's nothing underneath it, so there's going to be just a fan filter, even though there's no fan underneath, and another opening is here standard. Orientation like that is, one of them is obviously aesthetics, because it kind of looks nice when you just have a simple logo here instead of a little chart which is displayed on the other side. But also it kind of made a bit more sense, well, here's another aesthetics, but it kind of made a bit more sense because of the way these screws are secured. So the way it's secured, as you see on the top here, there's a proper holes, but on the bottom is just cutouts. Now I could use it the other way around. I could use these holes and these cutouts, so here and here, but then it kind of doesn't make sense because it's kind of dragging down and using cutouts here. Anyway, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I just thought the orientation would be a bit better that way. And since this power supply is quite powerful and I'm not going to be using even probably half of its resources, I don't really mind which way it's orientated, because there's going to be plenty of airflow to do what it needs to do. And I obviously reattached the power cabling. So next I'm going to just take all the fan and all the nonsenses, I'm going to route them through the other side, and I'm going to show you where I'm connecting them. Okay, it probably would make sense just to show you what I did here on this side before I show you what I'm connecting on the other side. So Phanteks already includes these very nice velcros here, and as you can see, all the way to the top you can manage everything. Now this is the CPU power, additional power, which I can't actually do much about it. It has to go straight down, that's why it's like this, but I tried to keep it like a ribbon like so, and for that I needed to introduce a zip tie or cable tie here below. In terms of these power cables for the graphics cards, since I'm not going to be putting graphics cards just yet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bunch them up together. I'm going to use these very nice Seasonic velcros that were included with the power supply, and I'm going to velcro them around and put them like so. Not going to affect anything too much, so that's fine. So as you see, everything is pretty much ready. So all I'm going to be doing is connecting this USB 3.0 cable to here. I'm going to be connecting the audio cable to the audio connector over there. What else? We're going to be connecting 2 fans to the fan headers. So one fan header is here, one fan header is here. Power is already connected, same as before. Power is already connected here. Additional power already connected as shown before as well. And I'm going to come back to you when everything is connected, and last thing will be left is these headers here. I'm going to just show you how to connect these as well. Okay, so just to show you, to make your life a bit easier, there's actually included razor here, and what you can do with it is this. Since all the writing is already provided, you can connect all the cables here. So for instance, we have what says power switch here, so power, ground. Now I'll give you a quick tip. The writing always faces out, so if you to connect the outside pins with the writing like so, it wouldn't be right. Probably would still work, but just wouldn't be right. So power switch. Next one, we have HDD LED. So we have power LED. No. And we have HDD LED. Once again, we connect with the writing facing the same way. Next I have reset switch. So I have here ground reset. I'm going to connect it exactly the same way. And last but not least, have power. So power plus here, power minus here. And that's pretty much it. We also have some speakers and things like that, which we're not going to be connecting. And let's see, so we have reset, we have reset switch, power switch, we have power LED, and we have HDD LED. So that's pretty much that we need. Okay, so next, to connect that, all you need to do is to simply connect it onto existing headers like so. Now, I won't be doing that. I'm actually going to be taking them away and putting them directly onto the headers. You can do the same, or you can just leave it as it is, up to you. Okay, so now that all the cabling and everything is connected, time to finally install the CPU cooler, which in my case looks like so. So that's the Noctua CPU cooler. Now, first things first, guys, don't rush installing the CPU cooler for a couple of reasons. One is because you need to make sure that the fans are connecting right. You need to make sure that you're positioning the cooler right. So you need to pre-apply the thermal paste, but also because these coolers, no matter how robust, they have these very nice and thin blades everywhere. And you see, for instance, here already now, I don't know if that came from the factory or I already did that, but that was already a little bit off. So they're very easy to bend, or relatively easy to bend. So be very careful handling these things and take your time. Now for thermal paste, I'm going to be using obviously Noctua thermal paste. As you see, it's already applied there. There's plenty of different methods what to use, what not to use. There's, as I said, pages and pages of discussions on how to do or how not to do things. I don't really care. The main thing is that it covers your CPU. Now at the moment it looks mess, but the moment this thing is applied, some pressure is applied, everything will be hunky-dory. So first things first, we only need to secure 2 screws, 1, 2. But to do that, I actually will need to remove this fan, which I hate to do because I really don't want to bend anything at all, but at the same time has to be done. So to remove the fan, you just pull it down and just nicely release it. Same from the other side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to simply lower it down. So I'm just going to remove the fan altogether. Put it here, it doesn't matter really too much. Now remember what I said, don't push on these pins too hard. And all you need to do here is just align your cooler where it's supposed to go. You can even tighten a bit by hand if you choose to do so. And next, everything is going to be done by a screwdriver, which actually is already included. So if you want, you can already use the tool that was included. And the way normally to secure these things is you secure on one end a little bit, you secure a little bit on the other end, and you kind of alternate until it's all complete. Okay, so that's that. You don't really need to press it too hard or anything like that. Once it stops, it stops. It's made already that way. So that's that. In case you're not sure about your thermal paste application, you're worried maybe it's not going to be enough or too much or whatever, just leave it as it is. Run the PC, go to BIOS, have a look at the temperature. If the temperature is okay, boot into Windows, check the temperature with some tool again, do some stress testing and keep an eye on the temperature. If it's fine, nothing to worry about, nothing to touch there. Just leave it as it is. Now next thing is the fan application, which is pretty straightforward. On the fan you see the arrows that it's going to be blowing air that way, it's going to be spinning that way. Now, if I'm going to put it like this cable is going to be here, it's going to be in the way, so I needed to put it like so, keeping the same airflow. And in my particular case, the RAM is sitting pretty low, and at the same time it doesn't have a high profile or anything like this, so I can lower this thing pretty much as low as I want to, but I just want to lift it a little bit up. And first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure it on this side, or at least try to secure it on this side. It's very flimsy procedure, guys, and I really hate doing that, but it has to be done. And then I'm going to eyeball it that the top is pretty much horizontal. And that's it. You can also judge from the RAM what's the gap like. Seems to be okay in my case. I'm going to leave it as it is. And obviously last thing, which is still important, is to connect this cable here. I have 3 fan connectors. On the right I have the CPU fan connector. In the middle I have the CPU fan 2 connector, optional fan connector, and on the left I have the watch pump connector, which I'm not using, so I'm obviously connecting it on the right. That's it. Everything is connected, everything is done. All I need to do now is do a little bit of cable management on the other side and close everything up, get the monitor, get it up and running, see what we get. Okay, so assembly is nearly complete. Final step would be just to do some aesthetics and power it on. And I have my keyboard here, so that's a Logitech mechanical keyboard that I mentioned to you before. My Logitech RGB mouse as well. And I have some stuff that I really want to add to this PC just before I finish everything. So that would be the RGB LED strips, simply because there's 2 outputs there on the motherboard itself. They're over there, I showed them to you before, and these are basically powering the RGB LEDs, and they're controlling the color of the RGB LEDs if you wish to do so, which is great. Now, one caveat with that, this is the RGB strip, so it looks like so, very inexpensive. I think they're like $1 each on eBay or something like that, maybe 2 at most. And most of them are either ending up like this, so it's just a straight cut, or they have this thing attached and already soldered onto, which is great, nice. We have pins here, but we also have pins on the motherboard. So if I take what ASUS is including, which is they're including this kind of extension lead, so this goes onto the motherboard, but here is a male part, so not a female connection, and that's a problem because I obviously want to connect it like so. So I either need an adapter, or what I already purchased is this cable, which is like an extension cable as well, and this has 2 female connectors on each end. So what I can do is connect one of these. So let's say, now pay attention where this arrow is showing. So at the moment it's on the left, because I'm going to use that for 12 volt guidance. So connect it to motherboard header, and I can connect it here to the RGB strip. Now RGB strip is pretty straightforward, because there's already 12 volt and RGB marked. So all I need to do is just align the arrow here as well when I'm connecting, and when it's connected, that's it. So that can be tested. I'm just gonna leave it like that now, because all I want to do is a quick power on self-test, and then I'm gonna show you how everything else works in terms of cable management behind it, and that would be it for this video, so stay tuned. Okay guys, that's pretty much it. Moment of truth. We're gonna see now if it's gonna work or not. I'm going to just power it on using the button on top. Okay, I just dimmed the lights a little bit so you can see the LEDs. Now as you see, they kind of have a blue tint, but then again they're inexpensive LEDs, I don't mind it too much. So I have the fan spinning, the number on the top of the motherboard is changing, so it's going through its paces. The LED strip is still on. I've also connected the RGB keyboard and mouse. Keyboard is lighting up. You can see some effects there, mouse as well. So it seems like we're okay. Let's see if the monitor wakes up as well to show us some sort of an image. And there we go. We have the image on the monitor, we have the LEDs on, everything's working. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you cable management on the back and what this case looks like with two of these LED strips, because I have another LED strip handy here. So this is the CPU power that I went straight with, just put cable tie there to keep it nice and straight. That's the fan connector. This is the RGB1 and there's an RGB2. So you see, you don't really need to do too much cable management there. These are the connectors for graphics card that I'm going to be getting shortly. And on the top also I used one of the Seasonic power supply included velcros to secure cabling there, and that's pretty much it. So not too much work required to make it all nice and tidy. I also put on the wireless antenna there, so the rear I/O looks kind of like that. There you go, wireless antenna connected, that was included, and it kind of has this Rubik's Cube principle, so you just rotate it and that's going to be for packaging, and when you rotate it like so, that's to be used as your antenna. That's that, and I'm just going to show you a few shots of the whole PC assembled and in the dark, and that'll be it. And that's it, that concludes the video. So that's the way that your PC would look like in normally lit up room. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have any controls over the keyboard, mouse or the case LEDs just yet. I will be able to do that once Windows is installed, once I get the graphics card, when I'm going to be doing some benchmarks. I will be doing some quick overview, maybe a separate video of all LED lighting. But for now, that's it. Thanks guys for watching. Sorry for the very long video, but I really wanted to cover as much as possible, so I hope I didn't bother you too much. And yeah, if you have any comments, leave them at the comment section down below. Click the like or dislike, subscribe for more videos to come. Have a nice day.